In the previous video, we worked with the display referred setup and applied LUTs or lookup tables to make sure the footage was interpreted correctly and to choose various outputs. Once again, there are disadvantages of using lookup tables or LUTs, and that's because they're destructive. In other words, you might lose part of your value range when applying a LUT. There are other ways to interpret the footage correctly without using a LUT. For example, you can use a CTL or use the OFX plugin. CTL stands for Color Transform Language, and it's another type of script that applies a color transform. DaVinci supports DCTLs, where the D stands for DaVinci. CTLs have some advantages over LUTs. For one, CTLs are non-destructive. CTLs are also commonly used to convert from one camera color space to another, and that's great if you're working with footage from multiple cameras. Let's give that a try. I have a new project here, and I'll import two different clips from two different cameras. Right mouse button click, import media, start with the Alexa file we used previously, and then go back and grab the red one, Mysterium. So two clips from two cameras. Now here's an important thing to note. The Alexa clip uses the ProRes format, so it's been compressed. Whereas the red clip is in a RAW camera format. And the RAW format is one that uses the data from the camera sensor without any additional processing. So the Alexa clip has been processed, the red one clip is not. Now Resolve actually recognizes the RAW format, but you need to interpret it correctly. And this is beyond using a CTL or a LUT or anything else. In fact, there's a section in the project settings for that. There's a camera RAW section. You go to that. You'll see a RAW profile menu for different common cameras. I'm not going to worry about the ARRI footage here or the Alexa footage, but I do want to take a look at the red interpretation. When you switch that menu to red, you'll see that by default it decodes that footage using the camera metadata. Now in this case, there's actually a better way to do this. I'm going to switch this menu to Project, choose my own color space and gamma interpretation. There's a new protocol for red cameras that's called IPP2. What I can do is set my color space and gamma curve to the IPP2 protocol to guarantee a higher quality result. I'm going to switch color space to red wide gamut RGB and switch gamma curve to log 3G10. If you use these two settings, you're following the IPP2 protocol. So once you know you're going to use red footage, go ahead and set this. You can do the same with Resolve 17, but it's organized a bit differently. I can change the RAW profile to red, change decode using to project, then here I have to change color science to IPP2. I can switch color space to red wide gamut and gamma curve to log 3G10. That would be the equivalent settings. I'll jump back to the older version. And this protocol applies to any currently existing red camera. I'll go ahead and click Save, and then you can see it gets washed out because it's in log space. Now this is in red log space. Let's say I want to work throughout the pipeline in the Alexa log space. What I would have to do is convert the red log space to Alexa log space, and that's where a CTL comes in handy. You can right mouse click on the clip here over the red clip. You'll see there's a DaVinci CTL menu. Now by default this is empty, but you can bring in your own DCTLs much like you would a LUT. And in fact, I'll demonstrate that in a later video. And in fact, I've included a CTL that you can use. Now I've already loaded this, we'll go ahead and use this and see the result. Now this CTL or DCTL is a very long name, but this is designed to convert the red log space to linear space, and then from linear space to Alexa space, or ARRI space. In fact, you can see the name starts with log 3G10, just like we set the gamma curve in the project settings. Let me go ahead and apply this. It changed a little bit, but essentially it's converted to Alexa log space. If you're using Resolve 17, remember that all the LUTs and CTLs are placed within a single menu, the LUT menu. So right mouse button click on the footage, go to LUT, and you can find the same DCTL there. You'll get the same result. So now when I go to other tabs, I'm staying in the Alexa space. Let me go ahead and create a timeline. Go to the timeline, make sure I have both clips pulled in. Now I'm going to go to the Color tab. Both shots are still in log space. Now if I wanted to render this out, I'd have to think about applying a LUT simply for the render, but not for the grading. So once again, I have many choices for LUTs. So what I might do here is add a serial node, Alt-S, to each clip. Then apply a LUT to the serial node, so LUT occurs after any color grading. And here I might choose a LUT for my final output, which might be Rec 709. So here, again, I can use the area Alexa log C to Rec 709. And if you remember, the DCTL had log C at the end of its name. So now I'm back in Rec 709. Do the same for the red clip. Then I'm free to apply any color grading I want to the original node, so it occurs before the application of the LUT. So DCTL is great for working with multiple cameras to make sure you're working in a consistent log space. Let's move on to the next topic, and that's using the OFX plugin, and I'll return in a moment to talk about that. I'm back, and now we're ready to try an OFX plugin to apply a color space transform. I have a new project here, and I have one piece of footage, one clip, and this is from the Red One Mysterium camera. If I right mouse button click, we can see there's no LUT applied. Now, because this is in the RAW format, the project settings determine the interpretation. Back to project settings, if I go to the camera RAW section, you can see that the red RAW profile is the coding used in the project, which means we can once again choose our color space and gamma curve. So here we're using the IPP2 protocol, red, wide, gamma, RGB, and log 3G10. So therefore, we're correctly interpreting the red log space, and once again, it's washed out here in the view. Go back to project settings, you can see that we're also still using the display referred DaVinci YRGB, and then we're using the default timeline color space of Rec 709. Let's go ahead and try an OFX plugin. If you go to the Color tab, you can see that there is an OpenFX section here. And here all the OFX plugins are listed. These have the ResolveFX prefix. These are the ones that come with the program. If you scroll down, you can see a color section, and we can use a color space transform. Now we can apply these plugins to any node. So I want this to occur at the very end of the pipeline. I can add a new node and apply the plugin there. I'll use the shortcut Alt-S to make a new serial node, which is automatically connected, and then I can drag and drop a plugin on top of that. When the plugin is applied, you'll see the little FX icon here on the node, and you'll see the parameters over here at the right. With this plugin, you can choose an input color space and gamma curve, as well as an output color space and gamma curve. Let's say we wanted to stick with the red log space throughout the various tabs until the very last step. In fact, I can even go back to the project settings and change the timeline color space and choose the matching camera color space. If I scroll down, you'll see the red, wide, gamma, RGB / log 3G10. Click Save. Now that does not affect the view. It looks the same before any color grading, but what that does is affect the way the color controls operate in terms of their value ranges and their responses. Back to the OFX plugin, at the very last step of the pipeline, we can choose a matching input color space, red, wide, gamma, RGB, matching input gamma, red log 3G10, and then choose a different output color space. For example, maybe you want to go to Rec 709 or a P3 digital projector space. Choose the color space and the gamma separately. For example, here are a few P3 spaces, or we can go for the good old Rec 709. And it's nice that the output gamma is separate, so you can choose that separately and mix and match. For example, I can choose a more standard Rec 709 in terms of the gamma, or go back to the gamma 2.4. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of input and output space and gamma. You also have a tone mapping and gamut mapping section, and we'll talk more about that when we get into scene-referred systems. So again, you can apply a plugin to any node. So I could choose to apply the plugin before the color grading occurs. For example, if we had 3 nodes, you could apply the plugin to the center node and then choose whether you want the grading to occur on the first node or the third node. It's up to you. As opposed to applying a DCTL in the Media tab, again, you can make sure it occurs at the very end of the pipeline. We're ready to move on to the next topic, and that's how a display referred system works within the Fusion tab. We'll do that in the next video.